Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. We are here reacting today, as we did just last week, to all of the biggest news that's trending over the past days and weeks. Now, of course, I'm Robert Carter, who has recently joined Five Pillars, happily so, but also representing the golden generation in our discussion is Roshan Mohammed Salah, the
veteran.
The veteran and founder and senior editor of Five Pillars. Welcome, Roshan. Thank you so much for speaking to me. Now, the first thing we've got to discuss is our other colleague, Dilly Hussain, who has basically been the target of an outpouring of hostility from Islamophobes, pro-Israel activists and groups, and they've been targeting him following a tweet that he made about a week ago, I would say, about a situation that happened in Dagestan where Muslims gathered to protest outside an airport there, and it got very heated. They bust into the airport, and it was about talk of a flight from Tel Aviv landing in the airport. Now, Dilly reacted to it, and then his reaction, his tweet, basically sparked a massive reaction. Now we have it here. He responded to the footage of Muslims storming the airport and said that this is the kind of welcome all Israelis should be receiving at the airports of Muslim majority countries. And then Douglas Murray, a prime example of blatant Islamophobe, retweeted that saying, "What is this man Dilly Hussein doing in our country?" And then from there it just went viral, absolutely viral. I think Dilly's tweet got like 6 million views, something like that. So it was a massive, massive tweet that went absolutely viral. So what's the latest? Because I know there's been more to this since this whole incident went viral on Twitter.
So the police paid Dilly a visit, and I think we can maybe see a bit of that.
So my name is I'm a detective sergeant working for Bedfordshire Police.
Okay.
I just need to talk to you. That's all.
That's fine. I'll be home in about an hour.
Okay, I'll come back in about an hour then. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Because what we don't want anything to happen is things to escalate, particularly, or somebody to identify you and you potentially end up being a victim of something, because we don't want that. Okay. So we're just saying, can you just be mindful in terms of what you post, because we don't want that to happen. Okay. Is that all right? All right. So we're not saying you've committed any offences. All right. What we're saying to you is that just be mindful of what you might post in future.
What Dilly's done basically is reiterate the traditional Islamic and Arab position that Israelis should not be allowed in Muslim or Arab countries. And that's what he meant. He didn't mean hunt down for Jews, and he didn't mean target the Jews. And I think it's pretty clear from that clarification statement what he meant. So really, it shouldn't have led to a visit from the coppers, but it did.
Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters, welcome friends and even foes. This is a video response to an ongoing smear campaign against myself, led by the pro-Israel lobby, as well as multiple prominent Zionist influencers, commentators and publications. Yesterday evening, I shared a video and quote tweeted a post of an incident that took place in the Russian Republic of Dagestan. What surfaced later, between about half an hour to an hour later, other videos of the same incident and of events before and after then surfaced, where there was clear evidence of incitement of violence towards Jews. When these videos surfaced, those mainstream publications that initially reported it as anti-Israel protests changed their headline and their articles. Similarly, when I saw those videos, I issued a clarification statement stating that whilst I believe in the absolute right of pro-Palestine protesters to express their opposition and disgust at the occupying Zionist entity, that you should do so via all non-violent means possible and available to you. And that whilst you are protesting, that no civilian should be attacked or harmed, as this goes against the teachings of Islam. Very clear.
The campaign against anti-Semitism has launched a campaign, so has Douglas Murray. They've got loads of people to complain about Dilly, and that's why the coppers have gone round. They say, look, if we get this many complaints, then we've got to follow it up. So I think the police are basically, for appearance's sake, they've gone round to Dilly's house. But still, a copper arriving at your door and giving you a talking to, a slap on the wrists, is not a nice thing to do. It is low-level intimidation. It's like, watch what you say next. Because of a Twitter exchange, because a bunch of Zionists get the hump over, Dilly's free expression and opinion, they shouldn't be going around to people. It's low-level intimidation.
And the fact of the matter is that, Dilly, he's following in the footsteps of all the Islamic scholars, which have basically taken a clear-cut position on Israel. There's a boycott of Israel because it's a colonialist project in Muslim Arab lands.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a Muslim behaving like a Muslim, why is that cause for concern? I mean, Dilly's clarification completely puts aside all concerns that some people may have had about his initial tweet. And obviously, I think that initially we didn't know, it's like breaking news. You don't quite know what's happening in Dagestan till perhaps later on. So, I think that any concerns that may have been risen were dealt with by Dilly very, very well, very clearly. Why were people called around, the police called around to his door? It's ridiculous. It's a complete waste of time.
The police didn't even look at his clarification statement. I mean, at least do your homework before you go and talk to somebody.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, the police, I know that they're low on resources and stuff like that, but do your basic homework. So I think a lot of people will look at that exchange and they'll think, oh, it's quite peaceful and respectful. But actually, there is a sinister agenda behind it.
Yeah.
Police shouldn't have been there. They should have done their homework. All they had to do is watch the clarification statement and case closed.
Dilly is like practically everyone these days. Everyone's accused of being an anti-Semite.
Yes.
Anyone who criticizes Israel, anyone who even mentions the word Palestine is basically smeared as an anti-Semite. But let me just play out a viral clip. This clip went even more viral than Dilly's tweet. It's an interview he did with an anti-Zionist, anti-Israel Jewish rabbi, religious Orthodox Jewish rabbi. It went absolutely viral. Let's see Dilly in action when he interacts with Jewish friends to the Muslim community.
Do they have a right to resist those who say...
What I can say is that the Palestinians have the full right of the whole land. The land is theirs. They live there for... not 7 generations, maybe 70 generations.
70.
Yes, you have to add a 0.
In the 7th century.
And what the Zionists did, not now, what they did for 100 years ago, by tricks, they bring up much Jews from European countries to make up a majority. And that's what I want to tell you before when you ask me what I have to say about the 7th of October. Every time you have to go back to the root, to understand the root. Yes, I'm a teacher. One time comes a child, teacher, he hit me. Oh, he's so bad. No, please, look the whole thing, what's happened, what you did to him before that, yeah. You have to look the whole situation around. You can't say, oh, how did George the 7th of October? You have to look the whole picture. The same thing in everything, you have to look in the whole picture, in the rightful picture, on the right way. Don't ignore parts because you have a will.
So I think that's an example of Dilly in action, and basically, this idea that he has any problem with Jews is absolutely ridiculous based on the work that he's done over the many years that he's been with 5 Pillars.
I don't take any accusations of anti-Semitism seriously from Zionists anymore. We all know that they're weaponizing it to shut people up, to make them, into something we're not. They made Jeremy Corbyn into a racist, like the most fuzzy, kind of a cuddly granddad anti-racist possible. They made him into a racist. I mean, you and me, we actually talk to Jews quite a lot, don't we? We have Jews in our contacts, and we interact with them. I'm talking about Orthodox Jews here. I myself am actually I've always been interested in religion, so I'm actually interested in Judaism. So the notion that we're anti-Semites, I mean, it's a complete joke, and I don't take it seriously. I mean, it's getting to the stage where you have to wear it as a badge of honor these days, because if you call it an anti-Semite, it just means you're pro-Palestine and anti-Israel.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's move on now, because talking of a disgrace, Suella Braverman has weighed into the ongoing argument regarding Armistice Weekend. Now, very quickly, for anyone who doesn't know, every year there is a weekend dedicated to remembering the war dead. Now, originally it was all about remembering the cost of life in World War I and World War II. It's the weekend where Brits and many other Europeans wear the red poppy. And that was its original, it was like an anti-war message. Remember the fallen, shouldn't go for a major war again. It was like an anti-World War message. Now it's turned into this sort of right-wing propaganda day where foreigners are hated upon, and anyone who doesn't act in a certain way, wearing the poppy, acting British, is sort of condemned. This year, the condemnation has been focused on pro-Palestine solidarity in London. The government's even been getting involved. Right-wingers, Islamophobes, pro-Israel activists are all brandishing these marches as hate marches. And I actually have Suella Braverman's comments on this. Let's play that out now and hear exactly what she said in regards to pro-Palestine solidarity, which is going to take place again this weekend on Armistice Weekend.
Well, first of all, let me explain what we've seen over the last few weekends. We've seen now tens of thousands of people take to the streets following the massacre of Jewish people, the single largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust, chanting for the erasure of Israel from the map. To my mind, there's only one way to describe those marches. They are hate marches.
So Suella Braverman there echoing calls from the right wing to basically ban these protests. They don't want it to happen.
Yeah.
They're focusing on Armistice Weekend specifically because of a perceived threat to things like statues of Winston Churchill, the cenotaph outside Downing Street, which is to commemorate the war dead and all that type of stuff. Tell me, Roshan, what do you think of it all?
I think she's a nutter. She's a bona fide nutter. She's got a screw loose. She's like, literally, the lights are on when no one's at home.
Bonkers Braverman.
She is crazy. I mean, literally, she should be in a mental health care home or something like that. She shouldn't be on like national TV or in charge of anything. She's actually, I feel sorry for her. She's not fully there in the head, is she, Winston, quite frankly? So, I don't know. I mean, hate marches. I mean, we've been on them, haven't they? Hundreds of thousands of people.
I do enjoy a good hate march on a weekend, it seems to me.
I've started calling them hate marches now, just because everyone else is. So, yeah, I'm going on a hate march in a few days' time. But it's interesting. I mean, Remembrance Day, I mean, I don't know where your poppy is for a start, Robert. Why haven't you got your poppy on? And absolute disgrace.
I know. What can I say? There is a type of poppy which we're going to discuss, which I might wear. It's a Palestine poppy, which is wound up the right wing very much so. But
the Remembrance Day itself is interesting, isn't it? Because obviously no one really knows what it's all about now, and they just associate it with the right wing. It's supposed to commemorate the First and Second World Wars, the First World War in particular. And I think Muslims, we need to know our history, because the First World War, there's nothing to be happy about or commemorate in terms of us, apart from disaster. I mean, literally, the First World War was probably the biggest disaster for the Muslim world since the Mongol invasions, 900 years previously, because it led to the basically the destruction of the Caliphate, which has existed since, Rasulullah in Medina, which was a shade for the Muslims, which was the superpower, the world superpower for all those years. And it also led to the occupation of Palestine by the British and subsequently to the creation of Israel. So literally World War I was an absolute disaster for us. Unfortunately, lots of Muslims fought in those wars for colonial powers because so many of our nations were colonized by the British. And probably hundreds of thousands of Muslims, if not more, died in those wars, ultimately for colonial powers. They shouldn't have fought in those wars. My own granddad, who wasn't a Muslim, he died in that war, by the way, as well. He died in the Second World War. He was blown up on a ship in the Mediterranean, fighting for the British. And I say clearly that my granddad and other people, they died in vain in those wars, because they were wars between basically the powers of Kufr, between the major colonial secular Western powers who had empires. And unfortunately, Muslims got involved in those wars and they died in vain.
Yes, that is a very valuable point. And, even like I've said, it was supposed to be an anti-war message originally. That was the founding point of the poppy. Now you've got it representing all armies, all the British armed forces in all their conflicts since World War II. And many of them, Britain's been on the wrong side. It's like the aggressor here. It's the evil power here, like the occupation of Afghanistan, the total destruction and annihilation of Iraq, and the occupation that followed that, Libya and everywhere else. I mean, we're supposed to, wear the poppy and commemorate that?
I mean, the poppy and Remembrance Day, what they're doing is they're celebrating militarism. Because when you see the images, it's all, the army is bigging it up and all these people in uniform uniform, and obviously the warmongering politicians, and it's a favourite of the right wing, isn't it? The Tommy Robinson types, and
the poppy has been adopted by the right wing, by racists. It's worn by war criminals like Tony Blair and all these sorts. I mean, what, I'm supposed to wear something alongside him? The murderer of innocent people, someone who still to this day thinks that he, after everything we know about the Iraq War, the lies and things and the mass slaughter of innocent people, he still defends it to this day and comes out every year wearing the poppy with all the other former prime ministers. I mean, sorry, but I do not want to be associated with this red poppy, which basically represents the blood of all innocent people that have been spilt. No, thank you.
Are you going to the hate march on Saturday? Or?
Oh yeah, I'm a regular feature at these hate marches. I have to say, I mean, it's such a wonderful mix of people, to be honest with you. For a hate march, there's people of all religions, all backgrounds. There's many Jewish activists there as well, old age pensioners, anti-war activists.
Is there going to be a bit of argy-bargy with the right wing coming down to protect Winston Churchill and the cenotaph?
Absolutely. So this weekend there could be some real big punch-ups. Football hooligans have basically been called upon by some of their heroes on the right. Tommy Robinson, who has just come back to Twitter, he's only been back for like a couple of days.
Oh, he's already causing a riot.
Already he's causing a riot potentially. I'll play out a clip now where he's calling upon people to head down to London and confront these Palestine solidarity protesters. Let's play it out now and see exactly what he said, because I don't want to get it wrong.
Silent majority have had enough in this country of the abuse and liberties that are being taken on our sacred day. You see, the 11th of the 11th, to us, it's as important as your mosque, as important as your Quran, as important as your prophet. You come and you disrespect us in such a way on that date. On that date. So my message to people who are saying it's a trap. Is it a trap? What do you want us to do? Just sit by while our country is obliterated? Why everything's sacred to us, why they take liberties left, right and centre. The only time, the people organising these marches, His But to Hear are the organisation. They are prescribed in most European countries. They're prescribed in every Arab nation, because the Arabs know how they have to deal with these people. But in Britain, they're allowed this terrorist organisation, because that's what they are. A terrorist organisation who want a world caliphate, Islamic domination and Islamic supremacy, and that organisation are part of these rallies, and they're calling for jihad. And the only time our government and our police will decide to do something is when they see a resistance, an uncontrollable mass of men. And that is what's currently needed. And not for trouble, not for violence. You see, their demonstration, their route, I think the police will be on top of it, and they will make sure they come nowhere near Whitehall, nowhere near the Churchill statue, nowhere near any of our monuments or any of our cenotaphs, nowhere near them. That's what I think the police will end up doing, because they're going to be forced to, because of the amount of young English and British men that are coming out. So, this is a call to every one of you. Make your way to London and be in London. But be calm and be respectful, because this isn't about, people said the EDL reunion, this isn't about an organisation, it's not about a political party, it shouldn't be about any name, it shouldn't be about me. So least of all, I'm going to be there reporting for you as a journalist to show what's going on that day, to document what they've allowed to happen over the last 3 weeks, the liberties that they've allowed to carry on. And what those liberties result in is a mass of men who are willing to stand for their country. And no one's saying come and fight, because that's the last thing anyone wants. On the 11th of the 11th, we want utter respect shown, and we want to show the world that British people ain't having it. Okay? So on the 11th of the 11th, I hope this Saturday I see as many of you as possible in London. Remember, it's about respect for our armed forces.
So yeah, what do you make of that? Are you intimidated?
He launches a battle cry and then he says, but peaceful. Right at the end, just a little caveat there. I mean, I think, loads of obviously like bald, fat, pot-bellied knuckle draggers are going to be coming down to defend the cenotaph. So every one of them will be bald.
The best of
England
Britain.
Shirts, like, with their bellies hanging out. You can see their bellies, and you can see their bum cracks as well. And what else? And they'll have their beers and whatever. But I think they're going to have to party alone, to be honest, because the march doesn't even go that way, right? So they'll have to be basically thick and ugly on their own.
This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. The protest is not on Remembrance Sunday, which I think is when the main service is taking place. It's in a different part of London. The police did urge them to cancel it, but because they're literally not breaking any laws whatsoever, the protesters said, with all due respect, no, we will keep protesting for Palestine. The fact of the matter is, these guys are crying over a statue. I don't know, someone walking past a statue they don't like, or a Palestinian flag ending up on a statue that they don't seem to like. real human beings are dying and suffering in Gaza right now, literally, and it's Britain's fault. It's literally Britain's entire fault. We're not just complicit in the killing now, we started this cycle of bloodshed, 100 years ago? The Palestinians haven't been occupied after 1948. They've been occupied way before that, when the British first showed up, like you said, and destroyed the caliphate. But yeah, it's so stupid that these guys are literally advocating for some kind of, like football fight, style confrontation, when literally these protesters are cooperating with the authorities. They are avoiding these sensitive areas when actually, in all honesty, they probably don't have to. There probably is no legal obligation stopping them from going anywhere in London as long as the police give them the okay. They're not breaking any laws, they're not causing that much trouble, and there hasn't actually been that many arrests at these Palestine marches. But when these guys show up, don't be surprised if there isn't a huge spike in arrests, and it'll probably mostly be his supporters that are going to be getting the arrests.
It's the first time I think the reality is that Tommy Robinson and his ilk, they're just really annoyed at the fact they're seeing hundreds of thousands of people supporting Palestine on the streets, and they want to get involved somehow. But there's no threat to statues, there's no threat to public order. But obviously, you know, as you say, if he has his own way, there probably will be.
Now, obviously, one of the things among many which winds up Tommy Robinson gets wound up by all sorts of stupid, insignificant things. Foreigners coming over, or someone saying something he doesn't like. Muslims praying in the streets has been a prime one. Yeah, that's been great. More Muslims should be praying in the streets, by the way, just to wind them up. This particular video went viral on TikTok, and it really has done the job of winding him up as well. Let's play it out now and show you exactly what it is. It's a dig at the poppy, I would say. So that is a Palestinian poppy. Yes. The first I've ever seen of it. And now I don't wear the poppy out of principle. Yeah. I don't want to be associated with it at all. But this is probably the closest that I would come to actually wearing a poppy this year. What do you think?
I think we should all wear Palestinian, you know, what's the word, memorabilia or insignia, whatever it is. Palestinian T-shirts. We should fly Palestinian flags from our cars, outside our homes. You know, lanyards, whatever, when we go to work, everywhere. I think this has been a massive campaign. We just got to flood this country with pro-Palestine messages. And alhamdulillah, you know, a lot of the non-Muslims in this country will support us doing that. It will pique the curiosity of many others who will do their own research. And when you do your research, there's only one conclusion to come to, and that is Israel's evil, occupying, murderous and genocidal, and the Palestinians are the victims.
What would you say to people who think that anyone who desecrates or ridicules or refuses to wear the poppy is basically, you know, attacking British values?
Well, desecrating the poppy. I mean, burning. I'm not advocating burning poppies, you know, and stuff like that. I haven't really seen it happen. But yeah, if you just don't wear it, then that's your choice. If you argue against it based on logic, again, we live in a free country, allegedly, so you should be able to do that.
There is obviously, I think, a middle ground here of people who perhaps see the poppy just as it's seen on the BBC, for example. It's promoted as this, like, you know, it's something positive that we should all get behind. Yes. But then at the same time, the same BBC will turn around if you don't wear it on screen.
Yeah.
Like, why are you not wearing it? Put it on now.
Well,
you have to wear it.
I did an interview with the BBC about 4 years ago, and I went to their studios. They tried to put a poppy on me, and I said no. And they'd be like, oh, okay. And anyway, I was never invited back again.
Well, talking of the BBC, there's actually a campaign currently underway against them, and it's a Muslim-led initiative, but something which I think that all people should be getting behind. And it's basically a call to stop paying for the TV license and basically boycott the BBC. I'll play out a clip now of the campaign video just to give you a taste of what they're advocating for.
Getting rid of my BBC license, fed up of the BBC dehumanizing the Palestinians.
From the start of the onslaught on Gaza and the genocide against thousands of children, women and men, the BBC has done nothing but lie and cover up for the crimes of the Zionists and decontextualize the 75-year-old plight of Palestine.
By BBC and the mainstream media for 75 years, You bring us here whenever there are Israelis who are killed. Did you bring me here when many Palestinians in the West Bank, more than 200 over the last few months?
We need information that is accurate at a time where people are dying in their thousands.
At a time where they've increased their efforts to exterminate the Palestinians that they call human animals, using atrocity propaganda as the latest justification, which the BBC is still spreading at the behest of the Foreign Office.
So basically what I get from this is that everyone's angry at the BBC. I think there's been a growing anger at the BBC for a long time, but on this Palestine issue, their coverage of the oppression of the Palestinians and the aggression of the Israeli regime has been appalling, I have to say.
Yes, it's the usual thing, isn't it? They kind of, the pro-Israeli voices predominates. The way stories are framed is in a way, you know, that is pro-Israeli. When Palestinians are invited on, they're harangued. When Israelis are invited on, they're given space to speak. It's the usual nonsense from the BBC. And I think kind of a group of us, because we've been really pushing this campaign along with many other Muslim groups. And there was we had a discussion. It was like, what can Muslims practically do in this country, you know, to help the Palestinians, apart from just protesting? And protesting obviously must be done. And alhamdulillah, we've seen massive numbers. But I think the red lines have been crossed so blatantly by the government and the mainstream media that we need to do more than just protesting on the streets. So there were a couple of ideas we had. One is boycotting the BBC license fee, and the second one was actually kind of getting Muslims to abandon Labour. Those were the two main ideas we had. So just focusing on the BBC campaign, yeah, I mean, obviously it's something that we can all do. I mean, basically it's a compulsory license fee in many ways, but you can opt out of it, and you know, you just have to make sure that you're not watching live TV. You know, you shouldn't be allowing inspectors through your door. You shouldn't be showing them your phones and stuff like that. But just one simple phone call. We shouldn't be funding this propaganda anymore with our own money to the tune of about £160 a year. You know, there are 4 million Muslims in this country. I assume, you know, a large proportion of those are license fee payers still. You know, all of us should be making that phone call, or, you know, kind of going online, cancelling our fees. And if we can all kind of even record our phone calls, if we can all take a screenshot of, you know, the cancellation, put it on Twitter, put it on social media to encourage others to do it. This is something that we can practically do. Obviously, Britain is not the arena of jihad. It is not the arena of, you know, fighting Israel directly. So it's an information war that we're involved in. And these are the kinds of things that we can do to make a practical difference, to show the BBC that if you are going to promote pro-Israeli propaganda and beat the drums for this genocidal war against the Palestinians of Gaza, we ain't going to support you, we ain't going to fund you.
I must say that there's a few things where whoever I ask, whoever I talk to about it, they all say the same thing, that they basically just hate it. And the BBC is one of those things. Yeah. I struggle to find anyone these days who actually has a positive thing to say about the BBC. I think everyone agrees that they're a bunch of liars. Everyone agrees that it's just state-backed mouthpiece for the British state. I think people resent the fact that they supported and waved the flag for the war in Iraq, which, as we now know, was based on a bunch of lies, and they obviously went along with it. They just don't really hold anyone in power to account, not really. They have, I think, some kind of link with the government, higher ups. I don't know how exactly, but
no, I mean, this is important to actually expand on a little bit, because they always pretend that they're independent of government and impartial. Now, there are parts of the BBC, like the World Service, that I think gets direct funding from the Foreign Office, or used to, you know, literally funded directly from the Foreign Office. The BBC, politicians are always talking about soft power, the BBC's soft power. What is that? That's British soft power. And also, the government sets the level of the licence fee. You know, so basically, it is in the BBC's interest not to push too far when it comes to the government, because literally the government can set the licence fee level and cost the BBC billions of pounds every year. So there's no way that they're independent. Obviously, a lot of the head honchos of the BBC and the head journalists, quite frankly, they went to the same universities and schools as a lot of the politicians. This is the establishment we're talking about, the British establishment. So to pretend that the BBC is independent of government is complete nonsense. I think if people just, you know, obviously we have lots of state-backed channels which you know, spew propaganda of their particular state, like you could say France, Russia, Iran, many others as well, even, you know, Qatar, etc. They all have channels spewing or I would say advocating for their point of view. to be kind. If the BBC just said, yeah, we're British state propaganda, or we advocate the British point of view, then I think a lot of people will respect them more, but they don't. They pretend to be impartial. It's a load of nonsense.
And yeah, I don't even think they're Ofcom regulated, are they? They have this special exempt status where they conduct investigations on themselves.
I must say, have you watched Question Time for the last few weeks? I mean,
I've caught some of it, not as much.
Yeah, I mean, that is their flagship show, isn't it?
I've given up on it, to be honest.
It's their flagship show, and
rubbish.
Literally, they don't have any pro-Palestinian voices on there at all, and it's just full of pro-Israeli propaganda, and that is their flagship show. If you don't believe what I say, all you got to do is watch Question Time, and you will come round to my point of view.
Yes, and I think even watching EastEnders, it's become like a propaganda. EastEnders, for anyone who doesn't know, is just like it's a soap show, just a show about ordinary people living in London. And even that, they used to push anti-Muslim, anti-Islam propaganda on it from time to time, condemning the Qatari World Cup and all that type of stuff. The BBC is a disgrace, and I think everyone needs to question themselves about whether they pay the licence fee and whether they should be paying the licence fee.
And on EastEnders, I have to say that every Muslim character there turns out to be some kind of extremist nutter, or they turned out to be homosexual.
Yeah.
They turned out to be gay.
Radicalised in prison or something like
one
that.
of the two. And they're all played by Hindus as well, aren't they?
Or weirdos. Like the character is a weirdo. So like that. There's one convert on there who's a bloody sad, pathetic loser. That's basically his character.
And they all go down pub. They all go down pub, don't they?
Well, Roshan, I think we're almost finished today, but there's some subtle messaging which you wanted to put into the show.
Well, I wanted to do this right at the start, but your intro was so long and boring and long-winded that it completely stole my thunder. So now I'm not even sure what... Anyway, this is my last appearance on this show, brothers and sisters, and this is a surprise to you as well. It's my last appearance because I'm about to become a millionaire. I'm literally about to become a millionaire, and then I'm gone forever.
So you've ditched us.
On a beach in Hawaii, never going to talk to you again.
All right.
And this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to stick this on my head.
Okay.
What does it say, Robert? All right. That's a great start. Let's get it. The punchline already failed. So can everyone read that?
I condemn Hamas.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to go around with this on my head all the time because I think soon it will be compulsory to condemn Hamas.
Subtle messaging there.
Yes,
I think.
and I think
very
honestly,
clever.
I think that every British citizen or immigrant to this country, even anyone that comes on a holiday to the UK, should have to condemn Hamas.
I like it.
And whether they're elderly, middle-aged, young, children even, they should be forced to condemn Hamas. It's going to be obligatory soon, and that's why I'm going to be selling these on the internet, on Amazon. They're going to sell like hotcakes.
They're handmade as well,
and I'm going to become a millionaire.
Well,
see you, Rob.
I think you'll get Suella Braverman's backing on that. You might even get some state funding for the operation. I don't know. But yeah, very good, Roshan. Very good. I think we're going to end the show there on that.
Can we edit that bit out, please?
Well, I think that's everything we're going to discuss for today. But there'll be plenty more to react upon, especially when me and Roshan head down to the planned hate march this weekend. Perhaps we'll even bump into our dear mate Tommy Robinson while we're there. So thank you very much, and catch you again